Today we will be talking about persevering patiently in trials. Now that word patiently is the key word to that. We're going to learn a lot about that, and it's important to also understand that patience is a key to a trial. How we respond to patience will say a lot about how we respond and react to what God is trying to teach us through the trial. How we deal and handle patience and respond to it also is going to say a lot about what we're going to look like on the other side of the trial. So we're going to be in the book of Psalm chapter 40, and we learn a lot from what David has to tell us in verses 1 through 3. But this just brings me back to just not too long ago. Recently, I had to go to the ER because I was having some excruciating pain. It was actually, that's an understatement, it was brutal. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I've experienced a lot of pain. This was hands down the worst. I was just moaning, I was groaning, I was even screaming a few times. I thought I was dying. I was that guy in the ER that you want to stay away from. And I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people looking at me saying, man, what did that guy eat? Did he have some bad Chipotle? What's going on here? But after some tests, CT scans and blood work, the doctor came back to tell me that I have kidney stones. Yeah, those are two words I never wanted to hear because my dad actually experienced that and it was horrible. So now I'm experiencing it, but it's a process. I have to be patient with the process because through this process, it's uncomfortable, unbearing, brutal. It's sometimes not even too bad, but then all of a sudden, smack, I get hit again. It's like, hello, I'm here. Let me out, you know, and I'm going through the process again of the pain. So I have to be patient through this process. I need to be patient with the process of passing through this, literally passing. And there's that saying that says, this too shall pass. Well, we realize and learn from David that he's went through a lot, he's gone through a lot, and that it's through his patience that he's learned a lot, he's grown a lot, and through his patience, he's learned so much about God and how God delivers and how God restores and how God heals and strengthens us. So as Christians, we're gonna go through trials, you know, but we need to be patient with the Lord because his process of putting us through trials is different than what we would like to go through. His timing is different than ours, but he also has reasoning and purpose for a lot of these things. Sometimes trials just happen out of life, but God uses those to help strengthen us and build us up. So here I'm gonna read, starting at verse 1. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me. He heard my cry. He also brought me up out of the horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear and will trust in the Lord. Now here in chapter 40, David's pretty much talking about his need for God and about how God met all his needs and how God delivered him. But David also learned some valuable lessons through being patient. You know, through these lessons, he's instructing us on how to follow the same lessons he's learned when we're going through life's difficulties, when we're going through trials. Now, here what we read, we see that David is remembering. He's remembering how long he had to wait before the Lord came to deliver him from the hands of Saul and his enemies. And if you remember last week's devotion, we talked about Saul, how Saul was just wanting to destroy King David, actually wanted to have him murdered and kill him. But the day came when God heard his cries because he waited patiently and God lifted him up out of that pit. Now, David learned that ultimate success depended on his faith in the Lord and his patience as God was working behind the scenes. So here, patiently, that word again, it's part of us being successful in getting through a trial is how we deal with patience and we wait on the Lord. Because again, the Lord heard his cries. He didn't give up. He kept on praying and seeking God even as he was hiding, you know, trying to save his own life. But God came in and restored him. God delivered him because he was patient. Through this process, he grew stronger, more faithful to God. Now, we wait in traffic. We wait in long lines, you know, we wait for things to get better in life. We have to wait in the waiting room, in a restaurant. Part of our life is all about waiting, and yet we're not good at it. We're not. But yet the Apostle Paul tells us in the New Testament that patience is one of the fruits of the Spirit that we need to actually establish and implement into our lives. So here, David actually had it in his life. He was very patient. David is also talking about this pit. The pit that David is talking about is not literally a pit of miry clay. You know, it's more of a picture of the difficulties that he had to endure throughout the years, the trials that this guy went through. But because he was patient and he persevered, God set his feet upon the rock. God brought David up. God stood David up. God tuned him up and prepared him for a new season. So when he's talking about he has a new song to sing, David had a new beginning. He had a fresh start, a new season, which gave him a new song to sing praises out of his mouth because he had a whole new chapter in his life. God brought him through this chapter. Now now, so that it's ready to get to the next chapter. But he was faithful and trusting, knowing that no matter what he was going through, as long as he was patient, and through the patience, through the process, places his trust in God, not only was God going to deliver him, but God was going to restore him and strengthen him. And that season he was going through was preparing for the next season. Now, David goes on to say, many will see it and fear and will trust in the Lord. Now, this is more about the deliverance and praise that came from David's mouth. David worshiped God and praised him for delivering him. He was very vocal about it, and this was an effective testimony to those around him. He was an example to others, and it influenced them so much that they were inspired. Those around David and that who knew David were also inspired to fear the Lord and to trust in him and to be patient through the trials they go through. I'm going to end with this. Only God can move mountains, but faith, prayer, and patience can move God. Chew on that for a little bit, all right? Hope you have a good day, have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys later. All right, God bless.